And they begin to drive to her destination. And they're riding along, and the nun notices that the cab driver can't take his eyes off of her, to the point he gets a little bit uncomfortable, but the nun's used to uncomfortable, so the nun says, my son, I noticed that you keep looking at me in your rearview mirror, and I'm wondering, have we met before? And he goes, no, we haven't, sister. Then she said, I have to ask, why do you keep looking at me? And he says, and he kind of gives that kind of sheepish, embarrassed response. He says, it's nothing, sister. And she goes, no, listen, what is it, my son? He said, well, it's kind of embarrassing. It's okay. Just, my son, if you've been a nun as long as I have, there's nothing you haven't heard. There's nothing you can say that will embarrass me or offend me. There's nothing you can say that will make me love you any less as a person. So tell me what's on your heart. Well, he clears his throat, kind of looks down, and he says, I've always had a fantasy to kiss a nun. Good place for applause. Now, she goes, the nun smiles and says, are you really? And he goes, yes. She pauses and she goes, it's about Christmas. And there's two questions I'd have to ask, because I would consider, but there's two questions that you've got to have the right answer to. He goes, what would that be? And he says, well, first of all, you have to be Catholic. And then secondly, my son, you must be single. He smiles, he said, Mass every week, and I'm as single as they come. So the nun says, well, pull over here to the alley. And so they pull in the alley, the driver gets in the back seat, and the nun kisses him like nobody's business. And make a hooker blush, okay? They said hooker in this church, a hooker blush. Well, the driver gets back into the seat, begins to drive, and the nun just smiles. She looks up, now the cab driver is crying. And the nun says, my son, now why are you crying? And he goes, sister, forgive me for I've lied. How have you lied? He goes, ma'am, sister, I'm not Catholic. In fact, I'm Jewish. And I'm not single. I'm married and the father of two. And he begins to cry, and the nun says, oh, my son, it's okay, for I've lied as well. Because I am not a nun. I'm on my way to a costume party, and my name is Kevin. Now, I love that joke. In fact, when a guy would say, that's funny right there, I don't care who you are. And it is, and I want you to laugh this morning because I love to laugh. And I sincerely believe that laughter is a sacred sound in the ear of God. I believe that laughter has incredible capacity to heal our bodies, to cleanse our minds, and to bring life to our spirit. The Bible says it this way, Proverbs 22:7. A cheerful heart is good medicine. And I want to talk about that today. I didn't know it. One of the message ideas I had was learning to laugh, and another one is the theology of laughter. And I want to talk about that today. I think sometimes life gets way too serious, we get way too busy, and things get way so complicated that we don't mean for it to happen, but one day we wake up and we kind of feel like laughter has slipped away from us, and we're no longer fun. A few years ago, there was a health study done, and it was determined that there are three main reasons why people can't cope in life. Number one, they live in the past. Number two, they have low self-esteem. But the third one caught my attention. They don't laugh, and they cannot laugh at themselves. That same study indicated this fact, that we need at least 12 laughs a day just to stay healthy. 12 laughs a day just to stay healthy. Let me up the ante a bit. I came across an article just last night, and was titled, The Possibility Paradigm, Transformational Change for Individuals and for the World. The author, Dr. Pamela Gerloff, starts off by saying the average four-year-old laughs at least 300 times a day. Okay? And I had a video I was going to show you, but we couldn't really get to upload. It's just 60 seconds long. Somebody posted it on Facebook just 2 days ago, and it's of a baby laughing hysterically at a dog biting at bubbles. Anybody see that? I'm going to post it. I'm going to have Kim post it on their site today. And you watch that thing, and that baby just is hysterically laughing at this dog nipping at Bubbles. Makes no sense at all. But you'll find yourself laughing. It's contagious. I don't know if I've got grandkids, some of you got grandkids, some of you have children. Have you ever seen when a child laughs, has that belly laugh roll at a young age, and you get caught, you just start laughing? I remember when their son Aaron wasn't even a year old, we laid down to take a nap, and Aaron was between Yvonne and I was going to get out of bed. When I got out of bed, I got out of bed quickly, and I hit my hand on the head post, and I just stung it back and went, ouch! And Aaron was laughing so hard he was crying, and I did that for about 10 minutes. And he was dying, and we were dying laughing. The average baby laughs 300 times a day. I saw another statistic that said this week that number is closer to 400 times a day. Here's what Dr. Gerloff writes, and I want you to catch this quote. The average 4-year-old laughs 300 times a day. The average 40-year-old, only 4. Only 4, okay? Now, this is what I love. She put down, when I first read that statistic on a blog called Aging Healthfully, I didn't even know healthfully was a word, Aging Healthfully, Happily, and Youthfully, I found the number 300 times a day a bit high. But then she recalled a time that she went to see her sister, and she was sitting on the step that went into the house with this little boy named Joe, and they were looking for Bob. And Bob was Joe's 5-year-old brother. So she's talking to Joe. He's like 2 or 3 year old, like, you with a dog. I wonder Joe, I wonder where Bob is. Do you think he's in the sandbox? The sandbox was just around the corner out of sight. And there was a silent pause, then an explosion of laughter, and she turned around and Bob popped into view. Grinning and beaming, his whole body filled with delight. He said, you thought I was in the sandbox, but I was right here behind you the whole time. And the laughter out of Bob was hilarious to the point that she said, she goes, why that was so hilarious, probably to a 5-year-old, I'll never know. But it made me laugh too. And she says this, just experiencing the delight of his joie de vivre. You see, you got the word? That's Latin. I didn't know what it meant. So I had to look it up, okay? French? Oh, that's funny. Here's why. No. There's a similarity between Latin, and I translated this from Latin to English, and this is what I got. And I made a mistake. It's still French. Thank you. Rats. So I'm not probably enunciating right, but I wrote down the notes. Joie de vivre, and this is what it means. Is that right? This is what I've got from the site. It says this. It means exuberant enjoyment of life.
It's where joy comes from.
Okay, didn't know that either. Cool. But ZWA is how it's said to pronunciate it. So, but this is what she said. So we three, Bob and I, with Joe chiming in, laughed and laughed and laughed. And she thought about that particular moment. And she said to herself that perhaps there might be some serious truth to a child laughing 300 times a day. And she reflected that and did some study and research. She said, I've been convinced of 2 things that are true about laughter. Number 1, these are the 2 I want you to get as we start this morning. Laughter enlivens us, both literally and figuratively. And she recites this article. Journalist Norman Cousins famously chronicled the effects of a self-prescribed laughing cure. Anybody seen that movie? It was a movie several years ago, and it was on TV about a guy who was very, very sick, and they basically said, all we can do is make you comfortable, and he wasn't getting any better, he wasn't feeling better, so he decided to prescribe to himself laughter to cure his illness. And so anyway, he goes on in his book, Anatomy of an Illness as Perceived by the Patient. Cousins, who suffered from inflammatory arthritis, claimed that 10 minutes of hearty, I can't even say this word, laughter while watching Marx Brothers movies brought him 2 hours of pain-free sleep. Both inflammation and pain were significantly reduced because of laughter. Research goes on to say, research since then has shown that laughter reduces levels of stress hormones such as cortisol, epinephrine, dopamine. It increases health-enhancing hormones as endorphins, neurotransmitters, and infection-fighting antibodies. And it improves blood flow to the heart. All of that resulting in greater relaxation and resistance to disease, as well as improved mood and positive outlook. laughter enlivens us. Secondly, laughter changes us in the loveliest ways. She says, when we lighten up, we feel more positive and optimistic, more hopeful and engaged. We're friendly, more resourceful, more attractive, more radiantly alive. And she says, as a result, she said, this doctor decided that I needed to do something significant. She goes, to laugh more. I decided that I needed to up my laugh quota. And then she asked this question. I want you to ask yourself this question. What if? What would you feel like if you laughed like a 4-year-old today? And tomorrow? And the next? What would we feel like? What would the world be like if laughter became once again our natural state? And that's what she says in this article, is that laughter is natural. But then life sucks us into this black vortex of negativity. I read another article, I'm not going to quote it, I didn't bring it with me, it was real interesting. Some linguistics guy out of Chicago noticed that people tended to be negatively bent. And he wondered, I wonder if this is just because Chicago's a city and there's a hustle and rustle and hassle and unemployment and all these, and murder and all these things, if that affects people. So she began to travel the world, and one of the places she ended up going was Mexico. And she chose another city that was similar to Chicago, and what they would do is they would do word assimilation. And so they would ask people, give me the first 3 words that come to when you think about life. And what happened was that she found out, wherever she did the study, there were 8 words that were universal. Regardless of whether it was a city, a rural area, regardless if it was one side of the hemisphere or the other. But they came up with 8 words, 7 which were negative. And 8 was, only 1 word was positive. We live in a negative world. So what if you and I begin to laugh like 4-year-olds? She says, she concludes with this quote. I love this quote. You don't stop laughing because you grow old. You grow old because you stop laughing. That's a great line. And so I want to talk just for a second. I'm going to tell you why I'm bringing this together. A theology of laughter. Last week we introduced 2 texts from the book of Proverbs. I want to just review them real quickly. Proverbs 15:13, which says in one translation, a warm, smiling face reveals a joy-filled heart, but heartache crushes the spirit, and I like this phrase, darkens the appearance. Another translation says, a miserable heart means a miserable life. A cheerful heart fills the day with song. Now, all of us know people when you see them on the street, if you meet them at school, if you meet them in the hallway at work, and you see them, and you just see them, and just right away you just kind of feel downcast. You ever been around that? That kind of SNL, Debbie Downer, wah, wah, wah. They just have a way of sucking the life right out of your lungs, you know? And it's true. You see a joyful heart, and you tend to smile back. Proverbs 22:17 says, a cheerful disposition is good for your health. Gloom and doom leave you bone tired. Another translation, a joy-filled heart is a curative balm, but a broken spirit hurts all the way to the bone. The International says it this way, a cheerful heart is good medicine. And I love that phrase, good medicine. Dare I say it this way, if a cheerful heart is good medicine, some of us need to get back on our meds. The meds being a cheerful heart. Paul got this when he said this in Philippians, be full of joy always because you belong to God. Again, I say be full of joy. Translations say different ways. They say rejoice in the Lord always. Another one, be full of joy. Another one says be glad. Another says delight yourselves in God. I love how the Message expresses it. It says it this way, celebrate God all day, every day. I mean revel in Him. Make it as clear as you can to all you meet that you're on their side, working with them and not against them. If you take all those, I want to really paraphrase it. As I read that, it was easy for me to put this phrase in there. Laugh often. Laugh out loud. Laugh every day because you belong to God. I think all of us need to embrace and practice a theology of laughter. Theologian Karl Barth said this, laughter is the closest thing to the grace of God. And I love that. We need to laugh, and we need to laugh often. In a book that I've quoted often here, I got Cindy a copy of it because it's got her name all over it. If you don't, Cindy back there, Cindy is in chronic pain, has been in pain almost all her life, and she chooses joy. And when I've told people who got to know her about her background and her illness that she struggles with and the pain that she has, they're like, I would never have known that. And in this book, this author talks about pain he experiences every day and choosing joy. This is what he writes. He said, I asked a friend what she thought the 5 most important ingredients were to being a quality human being. After a long, thoughtful pause, Norma said, humor, love, responsibility, courage, and humor. I tried to point out that she'd already said humor, but she informed me that she meant exactly what she had said. She felt strongly that at least 2 of the 5 prime ingredients for being a quality human being was having a good sense of humor. This last summer, my sons were all home, and we were out golfing, and it was Aaron, Josh, Jake, and I. And we began talking about growing up in home. They're all married, have kids. And we started talking, somehow the conversation came up from them about growing up in our house and having us as mom and dad. And they started talking about the things they appreciated most about our home. And several things came up that were incredibly humbling and made me incredibly grateful. But one of the ones that they agreed was the most important was this. There was a lot of laughter in our house. One of the quotes I read that said this, life is learned and caught and taught in the home. And that's where it starts. I saw a sign that reminded me of that. Yvonne had one in her shop that she just sold, and I saw one just like it out in Seattle a month ago. And it's one of those word kind of wall hangings. And at the top it said, in our house. And this is what it said. In our house, we do second chances, we do prayers, we give hugs, we laugh a lot, we do loud really well, we do love, and we do family. And I love that. And the one that was in their office yesterday, a guy came through and he bought it. He says, that's my wife. And he said, we have 3 kids. And I said, that will serve you well. And in our family, it seemed to work. And what we learned years ago is, you know what, we need to make that part of, that philosophy part of our youth ministry. As you know, I was a youth pastor in the church for 25 years. So we implemented that kind of mentality into our culture and our ethos of our youth ministry. And so we begin our youth group a lot of times, and I had 5 things I'd tell the kids up front. We call them the youth group rules. But the first 3 were simply this. Number 1, Christ first. Number 2, we are going to have fun. Number 3, you matter here. But we always emphasize laughing a lot. And this last September, as most of you know, I went up to Minnesota to a reunion where, in a church where we were, in the community where we were the youth pastor at a church there for 10 years. And I tell you what, those kids got that. And one of the things I enjoyed most about that ministry was we laughed all the time. Our staff laughed all the time. We had a rule of thumb that we would say, you know, if nobody comes, if no kids come tonight, we're going to even have more fun. Because we just had a riot as staff. Everything was a joke. And you'll say, well, that doesn't sound very spiritual. Okay. I was in the Baptist church where everything was an enema. Nobody smiled. I mean, we said last week that most of our people had faces so long they could suck marbles out of gopher holes. Wrong. And so that wasn't our attitude. Our attitude was that you can make a joke, at least something to laugh about almost in every situation. And I know what you're thinking. Well, not every situation. My family, I grew up in a family where we laughed a lot. My dad's a storyteller, loves telling jokes. Now you know where I got it, and now you know where my kids got it. It's genetic. And my sister, on December 13th, 1981, was involved in a serious car accident just outside of Sioux City, Iowa. Actually, she was up in Orange City, coming from another town I can't remember, called Sioux Center, from a performance of Handel's Messiah. She was driving a little Chevette. She's not a really good dog driver. Some of you know my sister Tammy was born crippled. And she hit a patch of ice and she hit a van head on. But she hit it at such an angle, what it did with the Chevette, it cut the front of the car right off the car. It sliced the car in half, right at the hood. And my sister went through the windshield of the car, but because her legs were underneath, now, jammed up underneath the steering column, she went through and then she flew back, which saved her life. If she'd have been seatbelted, she'd have been killed instantly. But because she flew back, the steering column had already pressed up against the driver's seat, and she went, with her bucket seats, she went between them. And then her passenger went out the window and slid down the highway. But anyway, it busted my sister up. She had 42 breaks below the waist. 7 were compound. Her nose was on her forehead, teeth driven up into her face or her cheeks. And my dad called me on December 13th at night and says, Tammy's been involved in a serious accident. There was a snowstorm going. He said, we're 3, 4, 5 hours away. We don't know when we get there, but you're 30 miles away, which still took me almost 2 hours to get there. You need to go and be there with her. So I got there. I could hear her screaming because they didn't put her under because they had to know where the brakes were and they're trying to figure out the brakes. But she was in such bad shape that our whole family gathered. And that's where we lived for the next 2 weeks. We celebrated Christmas at a hotel there in Sioux City. But I remember the third day, my sister, we couldn't see her. I know some of you know where they'd say they only give you 15 minutes to visit your family. You know, only mom and dad could go in 15 minutes twice a day. But the bed next to her was a gal from our church. So I'd go down to see her and then stop to see how Tammy was and bring back reports. So one day when I was in there, Tammy coded. You know, that's when they come in and defib her and bring her back. And I remember going and telling my family, she coded, they've got her back, but they don't know how stable she'll be. And we were crying, and my brother Steve was sitting on the floor beside me, and he's crying, and he turns to me and he said, I had Tammy's name for Christmas. We swapped names for Christmas. And I said, I'm sorry. He says, yeah, but I'm glad I kept the receipts. Now, we were asked to leave. We were not allowed to be, after the third and fourth day, we were not allowed to be in the intensive care waiting room, because we were having too much fun. And that's my family. Okay? Laughter is very, very important to us. And I read that almost always there is a laugh or a smile that can take away any pain you're experiencing. And so we instilled that with the youth that we worked with. There was one kid who embodied that. His name is Al. I love Al. Al is full of what this is. Al is full of joy. Al Shuck is a pastor now on staff at a large church in Minneapolis. And if there's one word that people use to describe Al, it is fun. And Al's fun. I did youth ministry for 25 years. If you took 5 or 6 of the kids I laughed the most with, they would all be trumped by the laughter I shared with Al. And Al's life was not joyful growing up. He lost his mother in a car accident. He was in the car accident with her when he was 1 year old. And his dad was always bitter that he lost his wife and that Al survived. One of those weird deals where he kind of held Al was responsible. And so his dad never showed him any love and affection. In fact, he came to my house one day, 17 years old, sat in my garage and wept, said, my dad's never told me he loved me. Okay? So I want you to know, here's a guy whose life, if you would ask him about his life, if you ask anybody who knows him, they'd say, man, he's fun, he makes me laugh. So one day I'm driving up to see Al up in the cities. And I called and told him I'd be down to Maple Grove, which is in the northwest quadrant of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And I called and said, I'm on my way. He called me a couple hours later and said, where are you at? And I said, well, I'm just getting off the exit here off the interstate. And he goes, I need you to do me a favor. I need help pulling a prank. Al, I'm not good at pulling pranks, which I was just tired. And I said, what do you want me to do? He says, I've got this associate pastor. His name's Dave. This was on Friday. He says, Dave has arranged his whole schedule. He's our counseling pastor, that he could get out because deer hunting season opens today or tomorrow morning. So he said he's wearing camouflage, he's got his camouflage hat, he's got an orange vest. I mean, he's just obnoxious. And he said he's dressed loud, he is loud, he's got his whole schedule arranged so he can leave at noon. I need you to interrupt him. And I said, how do they do that? He says, well, he's our counselor on call. So if anybody walks in from the street, he's available. And he's planning on pulling out. I need you to, it's about 11:45, I need you to come in. A receptionist will be expecting you, and then you need to say, I need to see a counselor. What do I tell him? He said, well, he's our marriage counselor. Tell him you have problems in your marriage and make up a story. So, true story. So I go, oh man, okay. So I go in, and as I walk in, I can see, you can't miss him. He was actually talking to the receptionist, big, loud orange vest, camouflage everywhere. So I kind of hid by the corner, waited, walked down the hall, and then went up, and I said, I need a counselor. And he goes, oh, you're great. She said, that's Nate. Stay back, stay back. I said, what do I need to do? She goes, we're all in on this, the whole staff. They have like 70 staff in this church, okay? So they're all in on this. I said, what are we doing? He goes, I don't know, Al's making it up as he goes. And, but he's always good. So that's what she says. So she goes and gets him. He comes and he says, what's your name? And I made up a name. I was just in Alexandria, Minnesota. I said, my name's Scott Sutherland. What do you do, Scott? I have an insurance business. So what do you want to talk about? I want to talk about marriage. Okay, so I said, hey, so you're wearing camouflage. You're going hunting in the morning? Yes, I am. I am too, which is a lie. And so he goes, really? And so we're talking. I said, yeah, I'm on my way to Shields. I got to get pick up some supplies. If you'd asked me what supplies, I would have had no clue. But he went on with it. And he said, where are you going to hunt? And I said, well, I live in Alexandria. My dad has 88 acres. He gave me just north of town. And I've been feeding, and this is true, because I was just with Scott. I said, in fact, if I have them in my pickup, if you'd have said, well, let's go see your pickup, I'd have been lying too. And they're in my pickup, I got pictures of this it's probably a 20 buck that I've been feeding all year since last season on my 88 acres. In fact, there's like 5 or 6 bucks, but you guys see this. I wish I had the picture with me. It's amazing. Oh, wow. And we're chatting. So we sit down in his office. Now, he goes, so what's up? And I said, well, I tell you what. This is another story that I just heard the day before. I said, from a guy named Ryan. I said, yeah, I came home yesterday from the office, and he said, I said, to give you a little, I like to fish. He goes, you like to fish? Oh, I love to fish. What do you fish for? I fish for bass and walleye. You do? I do all the time. I said, would have been Alex. This is all a lie. The pastor's a liar. And I said, I came home from the office yesterday. I said, last week I caught a 9.5-pound walleye. You did not. I did too. Got it on Lake Ida. Got it on a minnow and a jig. You did not. Yeah, and about 15 feet of water. Okay? What'd you do? I said, I put it in the freezer. I came home yesterday, and the walleye is in the garbage. He goes, what's up with that? I wanted to know too, so I went and asked my wife. I said, when you put the walleye, I'm going to have that mounted. No, you're not. What do you mean? She goes, I am not going to let you hang another fish or deer head or moose head in my house. You've used up your quota. And he goes, she did not. And I said, yeah, and I don't. Woman, I paid for this house. All you keep doing is decorating it and spending my money putting new furniture in it. And honey, you don't even got a job. In fact, I hire you to work for me, and all you do is play spider solitaire in the office 8 hours a day. I give you a new car every 2 years. You load up the credit cards because you shop till you drop. I fix that T-Bob hair job you got, and I'm done. And the pastor looked at me, and I'm lying, and I laugh. I start laughing because I'm lying. He goes, what's so funny? Like she's going to get another guy. I said, you think I sugar mama? I'm the sugar papa. I'm like, and I said, I'm still young. I said, I've got a house that's $500,000. I own 3 businesses that sell insurance. I'm doing pretty good. I'll write her a check, but I can fill in that blank. I can get a new woman to come and live in my house. He's like, are you a Christian? I said, yes, I am. Do you go to church? I do when I'm hunting. When I'm on my boat, that's my church, okay? And so he goes, you're telling me you're going to dump your wife? Yep, you have kids? I have 3 kids. I named the 3 kids I have. And he couldn't believe it. And I said, she made me so mad, I'm going to take out the gun and have her head hanging on the wall. Well, now he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I start laughing, I'm just kidding. Well, this one, I keep thinking, 20 minutes I'm just spewing out lies. Now Al set this up, I don't know this guy named Dave. There's a knock at the door. Door opens up and it's Al. Al says, Dave, can I speak to you for a minute? Excuse me. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so they step out. Now, here's what I didn't know. When you're counseling, they have a rule in that church, you never interrupt a counseling session. So Dave was taken back to Al interrupted. I didn't know this. I'm sitting in the office, in the quiet office. And here's what Al tells this guy. He said, who is that guy? I don't know. He's some insurance guy from Alex. What's this about? He's mad at his wife. He's dumping her, getting a divorce. He even said he wanted to hang her head in the wall. He goes, oh my gosh. And I got this hoodie on. Dave goes, what gives? And people are leaving the office. Dude, they have an APB on this guy, and somebody saw him walk in the building. They got a SWAT team that's surrounding the guy goes, what? Yeah, they have a SWAT team. We're waiting for more reinforcements. This guy's considered armed and dangerous. He might have killed his wife. What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to stall him. Now, Dave's about this tall. Al's not much taller. He goes, what? Stall him. I don't even know this part of the story. So he comes back in. Now he's sweating profusely, stuttering. And I'm laughing. And I got my hands in my pouch. And he's like trying to see if he can see the gun. This guy's up. So I start lying again and laughing. And so he's thinking, this guy's insane. He might have killed his wife. He at least probably shot her. True story. About 5-10 minutes later, another knock. Al steps in, Dave stands up, and he goes, what now? Al goes, we're supposed to subdue him. He looks at Al, he looks at me, I don't know what's going on, so I stand up. Now this guy, and then Al, and there's this pause that was just so awesome. And then Al goes, that's enough, Greg, I think we got him. And this pastor just collapses, okay? And he's like, oh, you jerk, you jerk. And then the guy said, when he's able to get his composure back, because he was kind of shook, he's like, just because I hit your wallet yesterday, okay? That's Al. Al's just infectious. Everything's a joke. We can spin this in a funny way, and he's full of life. I want you to know, on this large church that he's a pastor on, the bottom line is people seek him out because of his joy. It exudes life. And one of the things we said last week, that one of the most strongest characteristics, one of the strongest arguments for Christianity is Christians. And one of the surest traits of somebody who's right with God and understands grace is joy. We need to have a theology of joy. I love Al. I was supposed to be with him this last week. We couldn't make it work. So here's what I want to do, just in closing real quick. I want to say this. You need to learn to laugh. You need to laugh. And you need to laugh more often. And so I want to suggest for you, first of all, 7 things that you need to do. They're going to be really just bullet. I can't tell you where I got this. I downloaded it some time ago, and it was in my files, and I liked it, and I thought it worked. So I'm not going to take credit for it. But if you think it's really good and awesome, you can give me credit for it. I'll take that. Abraham Lincoln said this: most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. Let's say that again. Most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. Happiness is a universal feeling, and we all aspire to experience more. And yet I think all of us would readily admit we don't have to work to be crabby or angry or moody or depressed or irritated or inconvenienced. Those come pretty easily. But it's hard to choose to be joyful, to laugh, to be happy. That doesn't come as easy. In the science of happiness tells us that being happy, and we said this last week, is a choice. But if you're struggling to make lemonade when life hands you lemons, maybe what you need is what we call a swift kick in the pants motivation. So here's 7 quick kicks. Number 1, you need to be happy right now because there are people in your life who love and depend upon you. I want you to think about the big people who are most important in your life, that you love the most and that love you. You do anything for those people. If you're looking for a reason to be happy and to be joyful, that's a good place to start. Because no matter how bad life gets, you have those people in your life who love you unconditionally. Do you think that they want to see you unhappy or miserable? Of course not. So choose to be happy for the people that you love the most. You need to be grateful for the people that you have in your life. We've talked about on Thanksgiving having an attitude of gratitude. Last week we talked about having an attitude of joy. And now we're talking about choosing laughter. It's really interesting how much I read in the last week that said that gratefulness and joy are interwoven. They feed off each other. But if you don't have an attitude of gratitude, joy is nearly impossible to get. And so, because those people depend upon you, you need to be happy. Number 2, life could change dramatically at a moment's notice. Every one of us here knows the unpredictability of life. Some of us could wake up tomorrow and lose our job. Some of us could wake up tomorrow and realize that we've lost somebody that we love. Some of us realize that we could get a disease and next Christmas not be here. And the point is this: you never know. So don't wait until tomorrow to be happy. Some of us have we're off in the wrong place, the Isle of Tomorrow. Because I'll be happy tomorrow. I'll be happy tomorrow. You know that island? And you need to embrace the moment and enjoy the day. Jimmy Valvano, famous beloved coach, said this. He died of cancer, and one of his last public messages, he said this: I just got one last thing for you. I urge all of you to enjoy your life. These precious moments that we've been given. To spend each day in some laughter and take time to think deep thoughts about what you appreciate and what you have. Third, happy people are more productive. Who do you think gets more accomplished in the average day? The person who's optimistic, happy, and driven, or the person who complains and vents and uses all their energy toward negativity? Happy people, in general, are more productive and more likely to accomplish their goals than unhappy people. Number 4, the world needs more happy people. We do. We live in a negative world. Watch the news. You don't give it, I mean, once in a while they'll say, okay, here's a positive story. But the bulk of news on TV is negative, because negative news sells. So we need to balance that out by being people who choose joy, who choose the positive. It seems as if every week we hear about some new tragedy. There was another shooting this week at school, and that makes us question the human spirit. We live in a world where there's always going to be war, famine, poverty, and destruction. But here's what I want to tell you. If you know the scriptures, you know what God says, you win. We win. Love wins out, and good always trumps evil. If you don't hold that, if you have this ethos, this grid where evil always wins, and you don't think that affects you, you are wrong. I have a friend, it doesn't, somebody's going to call you, oh, did I do something wrong? Who thinks like that? Always taking that negative, it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad. And it's going to bite you. The actions of one happy person can create a ripple effect that can literally change the world, so choose happiness. Be the change you wish to create. 5, you're alive. No matter how sick, tired, sad, or unhappy you are, there's one thing you can be grateful for. That you've got a second chance. When you wake up every morning, it's a second chance. It's a refreshed day. You can start it out right. There was a gentleman who was here who's homeless. He sat right over here. His name's Adam. And I was talking about choosing joy. And so Adam seeks me out. He says, I got to tell you something. Big smile. He said, my life hasn't been easy. I don't own anything. I woke up this morning, he said, outside, laying on the ground, covered with snow. But he said, you know what? I woke up. And it's a good day. Reminds me of the elderly guy. And he was all optimistic. And he said, it's a good day. And the person asked him, why is it a good day? He says, because the first thing I do every morning is I open up the newspaper to the obituary column. And if I don't see my name, it's a good day. Okay, you're alive. You got a second chance. I have a friend who likes to say, wherever you are, be all there. You got today, be all there. Number 6, happy people have better relationships. In most surveys, married people are happier than unmarried people. It doesn't mean you need to be married to attain happiness, all right? What it means is that when you choose to be happy, you're more likely to have better work relationships and better relationships with friends, family members, and other loved ones. And then number 7, happy people are healthier. If you need another reason why you should be happy right now, here's a good one. Research shows a direct correlation between health and happiness. Happy people tend to take better care of themselves by exercising and eating right. So don't wait until tomorrow. Choose to be happy now. 2 questions. How's your laughter quotient? How's your laugh quota doing? 400 a day for a child, and 4 for those of us over 40. Did you, just ask a question, don't have to answer out. Like, did you even have 4 laughs yesterday? Seriously. Do you remember the bucket list? Do you remember one of the things on this list? Laugh until I cried. Remember that? Somebody just sent me that thing about that coffee they were drinking. All right? How's your laugh quota? In closing this, what are you going to do about it? Do people see you and they go, I love being around that person because they're full of life? Or do they say, oh my gosh, that person sucks the life out of me? And that's corrected where do you fall in that meter. The bottom line is, it's interesting. In Scripture, I was looking at laughter and joy and cheerfulness. In Scripture, I believe there's a theology of laughter. And the sad thing is, not enough Christians laugh enough. And if anybody should be joyful, it's us. Because we've been given the gift of life, and that life doesn't end when we leave this planet. We're redeemed, we're saved by grace. There's nothing once we receive Christ, there's nothing we can do to screw that up, because it's not about you, it never was about you, it's about when Jesus did the cross. It's a done deal. Heaven's going to be your home. So enjoy the gift of life. Enjoy the life that God has given you. Enjoy the life that's going to come. We win. Enjoy the journey. Let's pray. God, I don't want to minimize the fact that some of us might be going through pain. I'm not talking about being delusional. I'm not talking about sticking our head in the sand when things aren't good. When we've made mistakes or people have hurt us or we face any type of pain, I'm not saying that we negate those very real, the very legitimate feelings. But I am saying love wins. And I am saying that laughter changes us. And God, I pray that we'd be a people of laughter. That when all is said and done, they stick us in the hole one day, somebody would say, I'm going to miss them because they made me laugh. They had the gift of laughter and they made me smile and they made life a better place because they're around. God, help us to be people who are full of life, who are full of joy because you give us both. And I pray this in Christ's name.